So we're here at Art Central, sponsored by UOB. They're not paying for this video though, so let's go. So we're going to Art Central, one of the events over this weekend where UOB is the sponsors. We're going to show you some of the footage if I'm allowed to do that. Hopefully there's interesting exhibitions and maybe some interesting pieces of art where I can give you some critique and talk about how does that help us think about composition. One of the things that you want to do when you go to an exhibition is to look at what other professionals and what other artists do with their art and and steal from them. So let's go. Art Central. It's very nice to see that Hong Kong is actually putting a lot of effort to get the long weekend. This is the Easter weekend, which it's nice to see all the art installation, art activities over a long weekend. They are able to attract tourists and so on. Now, I honestly wasn't very impressed with Art Central, unfortunately. I think they were more craft than art necessarily, but I was really taken in by some pieces, and I'll talk about some of that. The one that we just saw, let's go back to that. I want to talk a little bit about why this painting is interesting. If you look at the geometric shape, the boxes, the square, the rectangles, and the way, the quality of the lines, the thick and thin lines, that was what attracts attractive to me for this composition. And by putting in the trucks at the bottom and allows it to pop out using lighter values, it is a fantastic composition where there's a dominant abstract rectangles on top, and then there is a recognizable trucks at the bottom. So I think one of the ideas I will steal here is try to create geometric shape that are interesting and then contrast it with some recognizable objects. So unrecognizable abstract geometric shape with recognizable shapes like trucks is what I would steal from this idea. Other than that, when I walk around, I see a lot of very interesting pieces. Interesting in the sense that it's vibrant, it's modern, it's probably something that people would buy and put on their walls because it's interesting, it's art. There's even an installation where there's a lady standing there, and most of the time she was playing with her handphone. I was quite amused. There were nice big pieces of representative art, abstract art, and all kinds of stuff. I wasn't very impressed with many of these. Interesting dot version of art that you could see. Some are painted with very vibrant color, which I like. I like colors. Muted color has its own charm, or even single color monotone has its own place, but it's interesting to see how different artists play with texture, colors, values. I mean, these are all from the elements of design, as you would, and here we have an interesting piece. Let's talk about this one. As you can see, the painting is a bit of a ceramic, basically painting of a ceramic, or partially of a ceramic doll. And of course, what's interesting is the reflection, the composition, which cuts all the way to the edge of the frame or the canvas. In many cases, you wouldn't want to make your object touch the edge of the canvas. That's really bad composition. Somehow it works in some ways here because even though it touches, and the neck where it cuts off is very uncomfortable. I mean, if you take a photograph, this is not what you want to do. You want to cut off maybe at the shoulder or at the chest instead of at the neck where it's the joint. So in photography, you always say don't cut the subject off at joints, not at the joints of the elbow or at the ankle and so on and so forth. But here it breaks the rules. I believe the artist breaks the rule here, I think on purpose. And so what I steal from this painting is that you can break rules. Rules of photography, rules of visual image, if you know what you're doing. The interest is in the reflection of the ceramic-like doll in itself, that attracts you to look at it again for a few more glances. But the breaking of the rules of the composition is not something that beginners would want to do or try. That's not recommended. But when you know the rules and you're breaking it, you probably is, you know, making a statement that you have surpassed certain achievement or certain ability to clarify your visual output or image here. So that from that perspective, it's interesting to me. So the interesting bit of stealing from this is basically you can break the rules but make it interesting, so that breaking the rule does not make it boring and uninteresting to your viewers and audience. As I walk around, I noticed that there's actually a lot of people interested in art, and well, I like this piece where it's interactive with the audience. It actually plays back. Some of the arts are very simplistic, but very interesting texture. You could take away by looking at how other artists play with texture, design, and here we have very interesting abstract pieces. That doesn't really interest me, but I kind of look at it to see whether I could learn anything at all. Botero here, Botero of course is a famous artist. As I was walking around this section, I was taken in by, you know, how simple some of the work could be. I mean, simplicity has its place, but it's difficult to create an interesting and yet simple or simple design that attracts, right? It's very, very complicated. There were more installation as I walk out. Let me pause a bit and talk about this piece that I found. It's not a fantastic piece by any means, but what interests me is how captivating the contrast is. It's almost like a woodcut type of painting where you find the darkest dark and the paper white, both on, you know, next to each other and in very interesting texture. You will find that it's buildings and it's, you know, the motif is just you know, the cityscape, I suppose, but the way you execute, the way the artists executed it was very, very interesting by using contrast to highlight the shapes and the design of the cityscape. There were a lot of abstract type art in Art Central, and I guess people would buy this sort of stuff and put it on the wall. There were a bunch of Yayoi Kusama, very famous artist. I've seen her, you know, installation and artwork in Singapore and in Japan, and always been very impressed with her work. You almost would call it psychedelic in that sense. You know, let me tell you a little bit more of my reflection around Art Central. So I'm almost done at the art show. It's called the Art Central. It's sponsored by UOB. My comment is that, well, there's a few very interesting pieces. I mean, namely, I saw some of Yayoi Kusama. There's a few Botero pieces, some of his drawings, as well as a few of his small sculpture. But I also saw a couple of Marc Chagall and, you know, one or two Damien Hirst. But other than that, I think the bulk of the work here is pretty much mediocre, I would say. You know, price, I guess art can be priced at anything as long as the buyer is to be alright, but, you know, but anyway, it's interesting to see that people put up an art show where there's a few very, very good stuff, and then, you know, then largely the rest are mediocre. Okay. That's my reflection of Art Central. Maybe I'll just close off by talking through a couple more pieces that were interesting to me. This piece basically is a lady sitting, you know, almost copying the style of Gustav Klimt, looking at you straight and, you know, very curious, and maybe there's an expression of some emotion that is trying to be conveyed, but the eyes speaks a lot. And the way it was put up, I mean, I'm not sure who would want to buy this piece. I certainly wouldn't put it in my house. A little bit too scary for someone staring at you like that. But it's an interesting piece of art because the way it's executed, excellent paint technique, brush strokes, and the texturing. Obviously the eyes is what captivates the audience in that sense. So very interesting piece. This piece is interesting to me because of its simplicity, the color scheme, which is red green complementary, the use of very interesting green, yellow green, dark green, and of course the red is also very interesting, the pinkish red. I would say even the vase is actually more reddish than brown. But anyway, it reminds me of David Hockney's work. Very clear cut borders, sharp edges, very simple design, something that attracts because it's almost illustrative in nature, something you would see in a magazine when it's being illustrated. But the way it's executed, the brush work, you could see the brush stroked very nicely. It's all geometric shape of straight lines, very, very well executed, and in that sense it's very interesting. So what I would steal from this painting is that you could be very simple, you could have strong design, you could use very interesting color scheme, basic but strong, and you could create a very interesting piece. The previous one I would steal from, it's the eyes. If I could paint eyes that are emotional and evoke certain emotions, I think I would have achieved certain quality as an artist. So there you go. That's my reflection and my walkabout in Art Central from my Hong Kong trip. I will do another video on Art Basel, which I think is more interesting. So stay tuned for that. This is We Take Out for now. Have a great weekend ahead. Bye.